Welcome back to the Ostrom Avenue podcast. For those watching on YouTube, we are inside the WAER Talk Studios, which is cool, but not as cool as the guest we are bringing on right now. Jason Benetti, voice of the Detroit Tigers, also does work with Fox Sports, but most importantly was a former sports director here at WAER, graduated in 2005. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
I didn't know this was video. Are we on YouTube?
We are on YouTube.
Oh, my. Well, hello to I don't even know where the hi, everybody.
Are all around there.
That's terrifying. Welcome to 1984. No, it's great to be back. I haven't been back for about 5 years or so. So, I'm pumped to be here and love to see that the studio is painted the very same color.
So the reason you are back is because today is the Marty Glickman Award Ceremony for Leadership in Sports Media. It's be giving out to Dan Hoard, a graduate from 1985. Sean McDonough will be presenting the award. How cool is it for you to come back and be with all these neat and historic alums almost?
Yeah, it's pretty full circle for me because I was the guy who was sitting here and sending my tapes to everybody. So the two people you listed, and I'm sure other people in the audience will be people who I've sent tapes to when I was a student here. But Dan was so good to me that the year after I graduated, he had one of these overlaps between Cincinnati Bearcat basketball and football. And he didn't know if he could make it for the football game. The basketball game was at home on a Friday. The football game was on a Saturday at Rutgers. And he had me go to New Jersey. They paid me to go to New Jersey to be his backup. And so I was sitting in a hotel room, hoping for his plane to not get there in a very non-tragic way, like a delay or something, right? Obviously. But he ended up actually going back to the gate, and I was like, all right, we're doing the game. Right out of college, I'm doing a Power 5 football game. And then they circled back and made it there, and I was like, come on, Dan. Come on. Kids need opportunities, buddy. No, Dan is one of the great people in this industry. He has always had time for everybody coming through here and beyond. We shared a league for a little while in the International League when he was doing AAA Pawtucket, and I was doing the Chiefs here locally. So he's just a phenomenal person, and I'm sure Sean will have all of his tricks up his sleeve. emceeing the event today. That'll be fun. Delighted to have you.
Go ahead.
One of the things that Newhouse loves to advertise is the Newhouse Mafia. How real is it in the actual industry being there? How often are you interacting with Syracuse alum and Newhouse alum in the professionals at MLB or at Fox?
Yeah, so, I love it here. I learned a ton here, and I think it's super important to be at a place that values the craft like this place does. I am not one of those people who's like, you must be a Syracuse person to make it in this industry. So that's not me personally, but we turn up everywhere. There are Syracuse people everywhere in this industry. I mean, just about any game we go to, there's somebody, whether they're calling the game for a different outlet or whatever it might be, who's come through these halls. And I do think the one thing this place has done without having too much hubris is really shown that play-by-play is a craft, specifically play-by-play. It's not just a factory made. You're not becoming an accountant when you become a play-by-play announcer. There is performance in it and there is individuality in it, and that's the thing that I love the most. But I resent Newhouse Mafia as a term because my last name ends in I, so it's difficult for me to call it a mafia.
We've talked to a bunch of alums in the past, and they've all said there's some kind of group chat with other people in your class. Is there a group chat that has that you're in that you would willing to share any kind of neat stories, or who talks the most from it, or something like that?
Well, so there's one that I just got invited to within the last month.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a big day. It was just like Dan's day here actually today the day I got invited. No, it's 20 alums. I think Sean organized it actually, and it's just people using orange emojis. But my college roommates who are generally not in the business, but one of them is Jason Horowitz, the Las Vegas Raiders.
We've had him on the pod.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he got the invite before I did?
Well,
that's
it was before our regime.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. He is going to be so thrilled when I text that to the group because when I was in school and we all were in school, you probably don't even know this exists, but ESPN had a reality show.
Yes, we've heard
You
this.
okay,
Yeah.
Dream Job.
Yep.
So
I have not.
So Jason was a contestant on Dream Job.
Yeah.
It was like Survivor for sportscasters. So he would fly out and be on ESPN every week. And so, like, we just made fun of him all the time and put up pictures of, like, his competition at the house and all this stuff. But he will love that he was on this podcast first. But we have a group chat, and the first thing I texted when I landed was a picture just out my Uber window of the gray sky and just said, unbelievably sunny today.
Doesn't get any more Syracuse than today.
No,
basically.
yeah.
So you were at AER prior to the social media landscape, and you were a sports director.
You could just say I'm old.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. But
I mean,
how was your experience at AER, and what are some of the biggest takeaways that you've learned from that position?
Oh man, how much time do we have? Like, it is a place that taught me to value details, and I think that's really, really important. You know, we in the social media era, I think it's more and more important on the surface to be popular, right? To have people follow you, to have a following. But the only way that actually happens is if you know the details of what you're doing and you can learn at a place that values the industry. And so coming here and knowing that if the work's not good, like, you're literally not going to be on staff, right? Like, you guys know. I just wanted to see your reaction. One of you, I think, probably had a more difficult time than the other. But, like, you know that if it's not good enough, somebody else is like, there's just not going to be room. There's not enough stuff to do. And it sounds cutthroat when I say it verbally, and it kind of is. But I also really value the idea that they're not going to put everything on the air. And I think that you come in every week and change something about what you're doing, that has carried with me till now. You know, like, every game I do with the Tigers, there's something I go into the next game and say, like, no matter what, this is going to change, right? There's going to be something different here, just because you have to be kinetic. You have to have a bunch of different tools in your toolbox, or else, you know, it gets stale pretty quickly, I think. We watch a ton of games. Like, I'm sure you guys watch a ton of games, and you can tell me, like, who's good at what as an announcer. And if you get too stale, or you just keep making the same mistakes over and over again, quote unquote mistakes, it's just not, it's not going to be a long-term career for you. And I learned that here. And, you know, I hear myself say it, and it sounds like very rugged, but it's really important to know that what you put into this, you actually do get out. You know, like, people say it's who you know, but it's like, is your work good? Because if it's not, I don't think people are going to just give you a job and let you keep the job if you're not good at it.
And one of the coolest things, of course, with WAER is being able to go to the Dome and do these road trips. From your time here, was there a favorite Dome game you had, or was there a favorite road trip that you had that really sticks with you?
Ooh, favorite road trip. That's an interesting one. We did the Lacrosse National Championship in 2004, 20 years ago now. I am so elderly. But it just came up actually yesterday. I was sitting courtside and talking to the SID for Purdue, who was at Navy at the time, and Syracuse played Navy. And it was on Memorial Day. Yeah. So Syracuse plays Navy on Memorial Day. They unfurl the world's largest American flag. And we're looking out the press box, and we're like, we're going to beat America today. Like, is that good? I don't think that's good. And so, you know, getting to do a championship like that was just awesome. And then, you know, the downside of it is you make plans for the NCAA tournament, and then TJ Sorrentine hits, like, the world's longest three, and Vermont beats Syracuse. And it was the only game I ended up doing the NCAA tournament as a student. And it's just like, it's crushing to know that your career as a student announcer can end like that. But yeah, we got to do a lot of really cool stuff.
You mentioned Horde and McDonough. Were there any other broadcasters or bits of broadcasters that you looked up to when you were a student?
Yeah, a ton of people, you know, and when people return your call or email and have a serious conversation with you about the work and are both encouraging but also say, like, hey, this could get better, that could get better. You know, I remember I was we lived at a house for 2 years on Livingston, and I was just walking around the house, and I got this phone call from a restricted number, and I pick up, and it's Bob Costas, like responding about my tape, and I was like, okay, well that's pretty awesome. But Ian Eagle was amazing to me as a student, and he's so clever and he's so sharp, and I fancied myself to be someone who was clever and sharp when I was 21. And I remember I was filling in for the Chiefs, the AAA team, and I got this call from Ian, and he was like, hey, I really like your work, but like people are gonna know you're smart. You don't have to try. Like, stop trying to use big words. Stop like trying to be intelligent. And I think it's really good advice, and I'm really glad he was honest with me. I think some people ask for advice and then get it, and they're like, I hate you, because it's tough. And I just think, like, I had some people be very straight with me early about what my work could be better as, and I really cherish that.
I want to move on to your work that you just got finished up with the Detroit Tigers. How was this season with the Tigers? I know it turned out to be quite a successful year, but in a few words, how could you summarize the year?
Do you guys like win probability?
Sure.
Yeah,
Why
the
not?
Tigers
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
The Tigers are like, they're the opposite of that Vermont-Syracuse game in 2005. Like, I was so mad when Vermont won, but my heart of hearts is like, yeah, like, let's have the underdog win. Let's have, Winthrop win a game or two. Like, let's have George Mason go to the Final Four, whatever it is. And so the Tigers were kind of that. But, we sign up for this, and you guys are in these seats because you want to do games, assumedly, right? You guys want to do play-by-play? Everybody here wants to do play-by-play, right? Is that true?
There's a great
there's
talk department now, but yes, play-by-play, of course, is a lot of end goals.
Are you like the marketing guy for the talk department?
That would be Jordan Leonard, who
Jordan's our
couldn't make it.
sports talk director. We're sitting in the Nick Wright Talk studio.
No, I understand that. Nick and I went to school together for 3 years. He's a great dude, and I can see his touches all over. No, I can't. But yeah, I mean, I think you all want to get into this for moments that are interesting, that are fun to call, that are enlivening. Like, we like sports for those moments where you're like, man, that was ridiculous. The Tigers had a month of that. Yeah. It was a whole month of making the playoffs when they shouldn't have. And so, as somebody who loves an underdog and a city, like I said in one of the calls, but like Detroit is that type of place that they're like, they were great years ago, decades ago. Detroit was like one of the hopping places in the United States and the center of Motown and all of the great things that came through there, the auto industry. And then it hit really hard times and is kind of digging itself out. And I think the Tigers really helped with that. And I think it was really cool for that city. But just in a play-by-play sense, like every day, something awesome was happening in front of us. So, yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, and I think you definitely also see that with the Lions, too, and how the city has really gravitated.
They don't lose, really.
Yeah.
It seems like. And they score 1,000 points a game, so that's nice.
Is there something that, like, I always kind of wondered when I was seeing this, or any kind of time when a team is, not doing well to start the year, but then turns it around, what makes that turnaround happen? Is there something you saw with the Tigers or we even saw it with the Mets, where it was like something in the locker room that really helped change the course of the season?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think there's value in a manager more than we think in Major League Baseball, because A.J. Hinch, he actually reminded me of being here in a couple ways, but nobody in Detroit will understand this. This happens to be the podcast where this makes sense. So, like, when you're the sports director, you have to give everybody stuff, or else they turn on you fast. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
You guys don't have any drama here, do you?
No.
No drama.
Of course
Nobody ever wonders why this person's doing the game or anything like that, right?
Nah. For the most part, yes. It's a great environment that we've got so far here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sounded like a hostage situation.
I agree.
But no, it's like, if we're being honest, when you have a bunch of people all in one place who have a lot of the same goals,
they all want to do the same thing.
They all want to do the same thing, and it's I joke around about it, but it's real business. Like, the Tigers had a team of a bunch of young guys who bought into the idea that they could be pinch hit for in the fifth inning one day, and then they were going to be the one pinch hitting in the big spot the next day. And so to know, that A.J. Hinch was going to use them in the best spots for them is really what made that thing go. And it truly is like the good, quote unquote, we should actually do like a power ranking of sports directors, like like a BuzzFeed sort of list at some point over the course of time.
Yeah.
But I would say like the ones who really make it a team atmosphere here are the ones who make sure that everybody who's good at something gets a chance to do it. And even if they're not great at it, they get a chance to do X, right? So there's value in everybody, and I think AJ figured that out and has figured that out more than any other manager in Major League Baseball. So it's fun to watch him make sure that all 26 people had something to do of value.
So switch over to Syracuse sports for a little. The football team got Kyle McCord, and the season has been a relative success in Fran Brown's first year. And the basketball team just received a commitment from Kyan Anthony. Do you think these programs are headed in the right direction after a couple of rough years?
It's so hard in this day and age. Like it's hard to say if anything is a direction, like with the NIL situation and the transfer portal, you could have a really great team one year and then suddenly you're like 6-6 again. But I think, clearly Syracuse has won enough games this year in football for people to rally around Fran Brown. And I do think his recruiting prowess is well known. And I do think there's a lot of value in that. And, I was here when Melo won a title, 03. And so to see Carmelo's son come here and have that legacy, I think there's a lot of emotion and power in somebody coming to a place where dad or mom had great success. And I just think there's more buy-in. It hasn't worked. Like Nebraska football is what sticks in my mind with Dylan Raiola going there in large part because his dad was an offensive lineman there. Great hype. They're probably going to win like 6 games this year, but it's better than 3. And so, I think this program has such a dedicated fan base here still, no matter what. Like, locals here love sports and will forever love sports. So I think the fan base is going to be around. And I do think this became a very much a be careful what you wish for situation all the way back when they fired Paul Pasqualoni. Syracuse was a perennial top 25 team in a different era, certainly a different era. But when there are changes like that, sometimes you hit this lull and it's hard to dig yourself out of that lull. And I do think just winning games will lift everybody. This season will help Fran Brown in recruiting immensely.
Do you see recruiting and NIL kind of shaping the college football and college basketball landscape as almost like a free agency market when the off seasons hit?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's, we have Colorado on Saturday, and Colorado's got 4 offensive linemen from somewhere else last year. And it took them 7 games to figure it out, but they've kind of gelled. And, I've had enough people in football programs this season tell me that they are not spending nearly as much money on facilities, and they're spending a lot more money on NIL. Like, if they have a big donor, they want it to go to NIL so they can get players. So, who knows what the legislation is going to look like, right? Like, we cannot predict the political future, but it does feel a little bit like it's hard to put together a dynasty unless you are in football, Alabama, Georgia, et cetera. And then still, like Alabama's lost a couple this year. Georgia's had some tough games. Like, who knows what the playoff landscape looks like? It's going to be different every year, I think.
You mentioned you were on campus when Syracuse won the national championship in 2003. Were you at WAER? What was the campus feel? Like, how exciting was that?
Yeah, so I was reporting live from varsity.
There you go.
I watched the first half at varsity, then came back to like file some stuff like for a feature or something. I don't have any idea what it was. And then I went back to Marshall Street like after they won, and there were literally people climbing trees. It was insane. Like, it was a crazy, crazy time. So yeah, I was here. I wasn't at the game. I was a sophomore at the time. So in the name of sports directors, making sure that their seniors are taken care of.
Yes.
Like, I was back in the studio, but it was amazing. Like, the picture of Jim Boeheim with a giant hat on in New Orleans on Bourbon Street that night is like etched into my mind.
And with now Kyan Anthony coming to Syracuse next year, do you think Carmelo, how much more involvement do you think he could have in the program? Because I feel like, since he's left, he's come back for games, come back for jersey retirements and whatnot, but he hasn't really had a full fingerprint involvement on the program, other than the fact that the building's named after him where they practice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like he did happen
Yes.
to nick right a building.
Yes.
So I think that's some people do it in different ways, right? But it will be nice to have him around. I have to assume he's going to come to games.
Definitely.
So. Yeah, I mean, we all who were around here at that time have a soft spot for Melo and what he did for the program. And I mean, he's beloved basically everywhere he's gone to by fans or organizations or both. So, yeah, I mean, I have to assume he's going to be around. And again, it makes all of us who were here at the time feel like our AARP cards are coming in the mail very soon.
Griffin, you got anything before we let Jason?
We'll have one thing. So you said you called I watched the highlights of the Marquette-Purdue game last night.
Yes.
Thought you did a great job, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
No critiques, don't worry about it. We're not
pop
going to
in
the
the tape.
basement.
Luckily, we're not the sports director, so we can't give you the critiques. But how does it feel? How does it traveling so much in the day-to-day life of a prominent play-by-play broadcaster? Does it ever get too much, or is it because you love it so much, is it just totally worth it?
If I said to you right now,
Yeah.
you could travel 3 times a week to do games with Bill Raftery and great crews. And, Saturday we have the Dion show, which is definitely a show. But, I do 200 games a year. If I said to either of you right now,
Wow. Yeah.
you do 200 games a year for the foreseeable future, would travel be your first question?
No, happiness would be my first question.
Right. So, it is a good reminder, though, to all of us who there are weeks that are grinds. When September happens, I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with the Tigers. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Flying out either Thursday night or Friday morning, do college football, and then meet up with the Tigers again on Sunday. But that's my job. That's what I get to do. And I've done it basically consistently since I've graduated. And so, 20 years of traveling, I still love traveling. I mean, I had a game yesterday and a game Saturday, and I'm here. Why am I here? The answer is because, I value this deeply, and I value what we've gotten to do here as a group and all of us kind of together building the craft of play-by-play and having the people who come after us understand that it's really number one, a rich history, which you guys hear all the time, but number two, this is the place where you should learn to get great at it. It's the only thing we have in the world. Can you be great at something? Did you wake up and do something today that's better than yesterday? Did it make the world a more thoughtful place? Did we get to act on the world? And we get to do that all the time. So, yeah, I love it. I would keep doing it. I'm happy to keep doing it. And, the worst thing that happens to me is the plane doesn't have hot water, so I can't have coffee.
One last thing for me is something I've kind of asked everyone that we've had on the pod this year.
You guys are doing what our football crew does, by the way. Brock Heward, Allison Williams, and I, all the time in meetings with coaches. We just did it today in the hotel room on Zoom. We all say, one more thing for me. And then there are 5 more questions. So I feel at home. Thank you.
The Dome's got seats now. No more bleachers. Your thoughts on that? Is that a betray from the Loud House, or are you okay with people being a little bit more comfortable now?
I wish I could pretend I had a serious take on this, but I don't. I like that things change. I really do. Yeah. This place is never going to change. Obviously, this has
there's
not.
Cameras. There's cameras.
Well, yeah, great, fantastic, good. We're doing WAER TV. Great, fantastic. But no, I like that it changes. I like that you guys have your own experience. I like that we had our own experience. I like that Dan and Sean and Tarico and Ian and everybody had their own experience. I'm fine with it changing. I know there are a lot of people who are hardliners about one thing or another, and I have my things that I'm hardline about. But Is it loud in there still? Like,
I think it still gets decently loud. The
okay.
football
Well,
crowds,
then I'm over it.
yeah,
That, like, if
some
it's
of the football
decently...
crowds haven't been great this year, unfortunately. But I think once basketball comes around, we'll really know.
Yeah, Duke visits the Dome.
Yeah.
UNC.
I think
There's a great home
it's
schedule
still,
this year.
I think the whole thing with the students, they could bang the bleachers and stuff. But I don't think that there will be a question of if the loud house can still get loud.
Well, then I'm good with it. I just win a bunch of games,
Yes,
and people are going to be
yes.
loud. So.
Winning solves everything.
Beat UConn.
There, well, that may
Hopefully.
be an uphill test. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time. Enjoy your time here back in Syracuse at the award ceremony later tonight. Big thank you for hopping on the Ostrom Avenue podcast and getting here in the talk studio as well. That's a first for the podcast.
Wow, how about that?
You got that to
Well,
put on
great
your
to
resume.
see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys.